Reuters came out with a big story talking about how Kamala Harris might go on Joe Rogan's podcast, of all things. They say that Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris could sit down with popular podcaster Joe Rogan for an interview in the final stretch of the presidential campaign, three sources with knowledge of the matter said on Monday. Now, that can mean anything. We don't know how reliable those sources are. Harris campaign officials met with Rogan's team this week, but an appearance has not yet been confirmed. Two of the sources said Rogan, who runs the most popular podcast in the United States, has a highly coveted and devoted following that leans young male and has numbers in the tens of millions. I wouldn't say leans young male. I would say that men probably make up 99.9% of Joe Rogan's audience. And I assume most of those viewers are also young white men. But yeah, it would be really interesting. And it follows along the same lines of attack I saw Kamala use today. Essentially, Kamala will do 60 Minutes. Kamala will go on any major news network. Kamala now is going on Fox News the 16th, which is Wednesday or Thursday of this week. And she's calling out Donald Trump, saying that he's hiding, telling Donald Trump to release his medical records. There are medical professionals who all signed a letter saying, hey, Donald Trump, release your medical records. You seem really old. We should know if you have developing dementia or something else going on with your body. You're going to be president. They would ask that of Joe Biden. So it's not crazy that Kamala's campaign and the American people would want to see Donald Trump's medical records, especially because they are hiding him. And Kamala said today, Donald Trump, why are you hiding from a debate? And I really like that tactic of calling out Donald Trump because it really hurts his ego. And if Kamala goes on the 16th with Brett Baier and says, or Brett Baier, I don't know how to say his name, but if she says, hey, Donald, I'm on Fox News right now. Look at me on camera. I challenge you to let the American people see us have a debate. I don't know if Donald Trump can hold himself back. He seems terribly unhealthy right now. He's talking about using the U.S. military to go after the enemy within, whatever that means, to go after political opponents. He's talking even more like an authoritarian. If Kamala can call out Donald Trump, go on Fox, go on possibly Joe Rogan, that can be really cool. And as far as Joe Rogan goes, Joe usually gets along with whoever's in front of him. Even on Theo Von's podcast, I would say culturally, it's a very right-wing centric podcast. It's about being dumb, freedom, talking about stupid culture war issues. But having Bernie Sanders go on Theo Von was fantastic. They were able to connect as humans and talk about issues that affected each other and other people and the world in general. And you can hear in that conversation with Bernie Sanders and Theo genuinely did not know a lot of what Bernie was talking about. He really did not understand many aspects of government. And when we find someone like that, the conversation should be about, you know, here is the facts about this. Here's how the government works. Here's how I was thinking back then. Here's why we're doing this policy this way and what we want to do in the future. Sometimes when you have conversations, you have to assume that person is in good faith. If you walk in assuming malice, you're never going to be able to get on anyone's good side or convince anyone of anything. If you go on the Theo Von podcast like Bernie Sanders did, and if you say, oh, this guy is he's dumb or he's malicious, he doesn't care about helping people, that's not going to go well. But if you go in as a human being and talk about issues you truly care about, then Bernie Sanders and Theo Von can have a great conversation in the same way that Bernie Sanders and Joe Rogan had a great conversation as well. And even if Bernie Sanders left the room and Joe Rogan went from like a socialist to a very far right-wing culture warrior, part of that is because Joe Rogan's involved with MMA and a bunch of other right-wing culture-oriented media spaces. He only talks to people from that area of the world. From that section of the media. So he's going to be influenced, especially if people on the left are not being invited on the platform or if they are not going on that platform. So I think Kamala Harris can do something similar to what Bernie Sanders did, make the issues more human, and also just inform people, inform them as much as possible. Much of what's happening right now with voters is really just who knows how government works and who does not know, and also who cares if government works well, and also who does not care. Because if you don't care about government and you don't care how anything works, Donald Trump sounds fantastic. He's just gonna like strong arm the entire world to be perfect and do it with an iron fist and be dictator and whatever else, and things are gonna be good. I don't know how. Don't ask me about any plans. It's just gonna be great. That's what Donald Trump can tell you. But if you care about government, you're not gonna accept that. So maybe Joe Rogan has some actual questions that he does not know about. And you have examples like when Joe Rogan saw the donations from different companies towards candidates, he assumed it meant that these companies were donating tons of money to Kamala Harris. In reality, more billionaires are in favor of Donald Trump, and the graph Joe Rogan was looking at, and he was fact checked, was actually about the workers from these companies. So more of the workers supported Kamala, more of the owners and billionaires supported Donald Trump. Joe Rogan was fact checked on the spot, but he was too stubborn to admit he was wrong. But like I said before, if you can get more personal favor, make yourself more of a human to Joe Rogan, someone like him who influences so many people, you can slightly change his thought process. So when Matt Walsh or Dan Crenshaw or another far-right politician comes and lies, maybe Joe Rogan will now have that goodwill towards these issues and more knowledge to fact check and deny them points in these areas. And Joe Rogan has done this before, defending gay marriage, obviously legalizing recreational marijuana and other drug topics. So Joe has that capacity, but penetrating that media bubble can actually be really beneficial. If Harris can do it, even if it moves just a handful of people to recognize how much of a threat Donald Trump is to American democracy and freedom and rejecting authoritarianism. And also Harris can just talk about, I would love if Harris went on with Mark Cuban and Donald Trump at the same time. I think that would be great. They can talk about all these economic plans, the small business plans, the tax credits for families, and everything that Kamala is proposing, all of the actual policies. And then at that point, these white men that are watching need to make a decision. Do I go with Donald Trump, who's doing crypto scams and just telling me things are going to be good? Or do I take a risk for them and vote for Kamala, who has actual plans, even if she's a woman, even if they think she's annoying, even if they love Donald Trump's masculine energy, which is not really masculine or energy or anything. But anyways, maybe they can take a risk because they see all the policies and they have this emotional side of their brain that wants to vote Donald Trump, but the logical side of their brain might be able to win, and maybe some of them will peel off and vote for Kamala. Kamala Harris is running a really good campaign with tons of policies, and I bet if she was Joe Biden or a white man, that would be a lot easier for her. Not even getting into any societal, sociological, whatever concepts. It's easier for many white men and men from all races because Kamala's having a men issue with men voters. Any man is going to have a harder time seeing a woman as someone with a vision, as a leader. And there's many reasons for this, but it's just how it is. It's harder for them to see a woman as a leader than it would be for them to see a man who is talking in the exact same way as a leader. I know people personally, and they are white men, who were kind of okay with Biden winning, but the moment Kamala got announced, they started talking about, oh, she slept her way to the top, she's a DEI hire, so that being a woman, those social categories, and being black and Indian or whatever else fits in Kamala's demographic profile, that does set alarm bells off in many white men's heads, because everyone's irrational to some extent, but that's just where they want to focus all their energy at. But hopefully we can deconstruct some of that, irrationality in white men. So I think him and Kamala, and I'm sure Joe Rogan will deny or confirm these allegations. But Joe Rogan and Kamala could have a good conversation, and hopefully that would dispel some myths about Kamala and about people in general not wanting to go on platforms like Joe Rogan's. And you'll see Joe Rogan, I think he's a really stubborn guy. He usually believes who's in front of him. If there is a vaccine expert in front of him, he's pro-vaccine. If there's a vaccine skeptic or a conspiracy theorist, he believes in that conspiracy. If Bernie Sanders is in front of him, Joe Rogan will agree with progressivism and socialism. If Matt Walsh is in front of him, Joe Rogan will turn into an authoritarian culture warrior from the right wing. Joe Rogan's all vibes. And if he gets something wrong, he's very stubborn. He doesn't like to be corrected. So maybe if he has Kamala there in person, he can think, oh, this is a real person, and change the way he talks about her in his podcasts. I don't know if that would actually happen. I don't know how that conversation would go exactly. I don't know if it's even a real thing. But even the idea that it's a possibility is wild. That would completely make everything feel even more unreal, even more than it already is. Donald Trump just got done in Pennsylvania at a town hall where he took 5 questions in like 2 hours. It started an hour late, and then Donald Trump stood on stage and listened to music for another half hour when everyone looked confused, and Donald Trump just kind of like swayed left and right while they played YMCA and a bunch of other songs. And you can Google that. That is real. People are confused on what Donald Trump was doing at his rally tonight. So Kamala should keep the pressure up. Go on Rogan. Why not? Just go on Rogan. You're not going to get hurt with young men, okay? With young white men especially. You're not going to lose numbers there. The only thing you can do is gain in those numbers. That is by far Kamala's worst category. You might as well do it. I don't see any negative, unless if Kamala literally lights up a joint with Joe Rogan and loses the 65 plus vote or whatever. I think there's only a positive, a chance for a positive change with her going on the platform, and she'll probably get some respect from Joe Rogan if she's willing to go on a platform like that to have a long form discussion. And she's been doing podcasts and has been doing more new media stuff recently. And it's gone decent for her. I don't think it really moved much, and that's a big thing to remember as well. Right now, it's about shoring up the bases that will already vote for you, making your base more excited, making sure everyone is registered to vote. If Republicans in a certain state are trying to kick everyone off of voter registration and off of voter rolls, then making sure we have legal challenges in those areas. She's bringing out like Liz Cheney to talk to centrist Republicans who miss George Bush and Ronald Reagan, to talk about getting the Republican Party back. If Donald Trump loses, then maybe Republicans can return to being how they were, which still was bad, but they weren't fascist and trying to overturn democracy and the concept of, the entire U.S. Constitution, because Donald Trump wants to tear apart the Constitution openly, very aggressively. He just says that. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, channel memberships are open. They start at $3. You get a special badge in the comments, highlighted comments, and also I will respond to everything, special emotes, special private chats to get more insight into my personal organizing life, maybe possible races I can run for, so you can support that as well with only $3 a month or higher tiers. That'd be awesome. But yeah, it takes a couple hours a day to make these videos. It'd be great to have your support.